The fork stopped halfway to my mouth when my mother said it. Your sister lost her job, so you'll cover her expenses until she's back on her feet. Not a question. A decision. Delivered like she was commenting on the weather. Across the table, my dad didn't even look up. He just cut into his steak and added, "Family takes care of its own, Ethan." Lauren, my older sister, didn't bother acknowledging me at all. She scrolled through her phone, then said, "Flat and casual. Rent's $2, $400 plus utilities. Car, insurance, around $5,000 a month. You're doing well. It's not a big deal." Like I was her payroll department, my mom reached across the table, squeezing my hand. "You've always been the reliable one. I knew you'd step up." I smiled. Actually smiled. "You're right," I said calmly. "Family takes care of its own." Her face lit up instantly. Relief, validation. "So Lauren can move in with you?" "No," I said, pulling my hand back. The silence hit hard. "I'm selling my condo," I continued, leaning back in my chair. "And I'm moving to Seattle, 2 weeks." My dad's knife clattered against his plate. My mom blinked like she didn't understand the words. Lauren finally looked up. "You're what I accepted a position. Cybersecurity architect. Better pay. Clean break." "You didn't even tell us," my mom snapped, her voice tightening. I held her gaze, kind of like how you didn't tell me I was funding Lauren's life. "Watch your tone," my dad warned. "No," I said, standing. "You made your decision. So I made mine." Lauren scoffed. "You're being dramatic. I just need help for a few months. Like the 7 months I covered your rent, or the year I paid your car," I said, grabbing my jacket. "It's always temporary. It's never repaid." My mom's voice sharpened. "Ethan Cole Parker. Sit down. We're not done." I paused at the door. "We are." And then I walked out. I'd been the safety net for my family for 8 years. It didn't start like this. It never does. At first, it was small. A couple $100s when Lauren's car broke down. Another few hundred when she came up short on rent. My mom would call, voice heavy with concern. "Your sister's going through a rough patch. She just needs a little help." So I helped. Because that's what you do. That's what I'd been raised to believe. Then the amounts got bigger. 1,000, 3,000, 5. The reasons changed. But the pattern didn't. Lauren lost jobs. A lot of them. Marketing firms, startups, retail management. None of them lasted more than a year, maybe a year and a half if things were going well. There was always an explanation. Toxic boss. Bad company culture. People who didn't understand her value. I stopped questioning it. I just covered the gap. I helped when you needed first and last month's rent. I helped when your credit cards got maxed out. I helped when your insurance lapsed. I helped when your car got repossessed. Every time. It was temporary. Every time. It was urgent. Every time. It was on me. My dad played the moral card. "You're the successful one, Ethan. You went to school, built a career. The least you can do is help your sister get back on her feet." My mom handled the emotional pressure. Disappointment. Silence. That subtle shift in tone that made it clear I'd failed as a son if I said no. So I didn't. I sent the money. Again and again. Until one night, about a month before that Sunday lunch, I sat at my desk and actually added it up. Every transfer, every loan, every emergency. $58,000, gone. Over 6 years, Lauren had paid back exactly 0. I stared at the number for a long time. Not angry. Not even surprised. Just done. That same week, Marcus called me. We'd been roommates in college. And now he was out in Seattle, working for a cybersecurity firm. "You ever notice," he said during our call, "that her problems only exist when you're around to solve them?" I didn't answer. "You're not helping her," he continued. "You're removing consequences. That's why it never stops." That word stuck with me, consequences, so I started paying attention. Lauren never stayed employed long enough to stabilize. She always had just enough momentum to qualify for unemployment. Then coasted until it ran out. My parents filled in some gaps, but I filled in most of them. And every time I stepped in, the cycle reset. No growth, no change, just dependency. Marcus mentioned the opening at his company almost casually. "We're expanding, better pay, new city, no family breathing down your neck." I laughed it off at first, but later that night, I applied. Then I interviewed. Then I got the offer. And for the first time in years, I didn't tell my family anything, because I already knew how that conversation would go. Guilt, pressure, some new crisis that would somehow require me to stay. So I stayed quiet instead. Made my plans, started packing, and when they sat there at that table, deciding without asking that I'd be covering Lauren's life indefinitely. That wasn't the beginning. That was the confirmation. The next morning, my phone turned into a weapon. Calls, texts, voicemails. Back to back, no breaks. Mom, we need to talk about your attitude. Dad, call your mother. She's very upset, Lauren. I can't believe you're doing this to me, Mom again. This isn't how we raised you, Dad again. You're being selfish, son. It came in waves. Like they thought repetition would wear me down. It used to work, not anymore. I didn't respond to any of it, didn't argue, didn't explain, didn't defend myself. I just muted the phone and kept moving. Packed boxes, cleared drawers, sorted what I was taking and what I wasn't. Work, gym, sleep, repeat. If they wanted a reaction, they weren't getting one. By Wednesday, they escalated. Lauren left a voicemail that almost sounded like she was crying, but there was something off about it. Too controlled. I would never abandon you like this, she said. I listened to it once, then deleted it, because we both knew that wasn't true. She'd been abandoning responsibility for years. I'd just been the one catching it. Thursday night, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. Local. Not one of theirs. I almost ignored it, but something in me said, "Pick up, Ethan." I froze for half a second. Daniel, yeah, it's been a while. Daniel Brooks, Lauren's ex-husband. We hadn't spoken since the divorce 3 years ago. My mom must have gone digging. She called me, he said. Said you were walking away from the family. Wanted me to talk sense into you. Of course she did. I leaned back against the kitchen counter, staring at the half-packed boxes around me. Let me guess, I said. She told you I was being selfish. She told me a lot of things, he replied, then paused. But that's not why I'm calling. Something in his tone changed. Lower. Heavier. I should have told you this years ago, he said. I didn't. That's on me. My grip tightened around the phone. What are you talking about? Another pause. Can we meet? He asked. Tonight. This isn't something I'm saying over the phone. I looked around my condo. Half my life already packed into boxes, the other half about to disappear. Where downtown, coffee shop on 5th, 20 minutes. I didn't hesitate. Yeah, I said. I'll be there. Because whatever this was, I already knew it wasn't going to make things better. Daniel looked worse than I remembered. 3 years ago, he'd been the guy who filled a room just by walking into it. Confident, easy smile, the kind of energy people gravitate toward. Now, he looked drained, like something had been slowly eating away at him. We sat across from each other in a corner of the coffee shop. He didn't waste time. I'm just going to say it, he said, pulling a thick folder out of his bag, because I should have said it years ago. He slid it across the table. I think your sister and your mom have been using your identity. The words didn't land all at once. They just sat there. What I said. Open it, I did. Bank statements, credit reports, legal documents, my name, everywhere, but not my handwriting, not my signature. My chest tightened. While Lauren and I were married, Daniel said quietly. She opened 3 credit cards in your name, took out a personal loan too. Used your social security number. I stared at the numbers. Transactions, minimum payments, interest stacking. How much I asked. Back then, around 18,000. The coffee shop suddenly felt too small. That's not possible, I said. I would have seen something. She intercepted the mail. He replied. Had everything sent to our place. Made the minimum payments, so nothing flagged. I thought the money was going toward our expenses. He tapped one of the pages. That signature hers. But the account. Yours. I didn't say anything, didn't move, just kept looking. How did you find out? I asked finally. Divorce, he said. Things didn't add up. Money disappearing. I hired a forensic accountant. That's when everything came out. He reached into the folder again, pulled out another document. But that's not the part I've been struggling with. I looked up. He hesitated for half a second. Your mom was involved. For a moment, nothing made sense. What? She co-signed on 2 of the accounts, he said. Provided documentation, birth certificate, social security copy. The accountant traced it. I read the document again, and again, and again. The name was mine. But the handwriting, I knew that handwriting. I'd seen it my entire life, my mom's. She knew, I said. More to myself than to him. She helped, Daniel corrected. Something inside me went quiet. Not broken, not explosive, just cold. Why didn't you tell me? I asked. He exhaled slowly. Because you're my friend. I didn't want to blow up your family. I thought, maybe if I walked away, it would stop. He gave a dry, humorless laugh. It didn't. I closed the folder. Why now? Because your mom called me, he said, asking me to convince you to stay, to keep funding Lauren. He leaned forward slightly, and I realized they never stopped. That was the moment something shifted, not emotionally, logically. They're still doing it, I said. I don't know for sure, he replied. But if I were you, I'd check your credit. I didn't finish my coffee, didn't say goodbye. I walked straight out, got in my car, opened my laptop right there in the parking lot, and pulled my credit report. 4 accounts. I didn't recognize any of them. $17,000 in active debt. Payment history clean. Minimums paid. Just enough to stay invisible. My hands didn't shake. That surprised me. I just stared at the screen. Processing. Patterns. Timeline. 18,000 then. 17 now. Which meant it never stopped. It just evolved. I pulled out my phone and called Marcus. He picked up on the second ring. Hey. They've been using my identity, I said. Silence. Then, who? My sister. My mom. Credit cards. Loans. For years. Another pause. Then his tone shifted. Clear. Focused. You need a lawyer, now. I don't even know where to start. I do, he said. Give me an hour. 50 minutes later, I had a name. David Sterling, fraud and identity theft specialist. 15 years. I called first thing the next morning. By that afternoon, I was sitting in his office. He reviewed everything in silence for a long time. Then he leaned back slightly. Family fraud cases, he said, are some of the worst. Not because they're complex, because they're personal. I didn't respond. He looked at me directly. You need to understand something. If you move forward with this, there's no going back. Police reports, criminal charges. This will permanently end those relationships. They're already over, I said. He nodded once. Then we do this properly. He outlined the steps. Forensic accounting, documentation, credit freeze, police report, civil and criminal options, no shortcuts. I have someone I trust, he added. Jennifer Walsh. She'll trace everything. I met her that same day. Sharp, precise, no wasted movement. She spread the documents across her desk like she'd done it 1,000 times. Family cases, she said, are usually messy emotionally. Financially, they're often very clear. For the next few days, I'm going to dig into everything, every account, every transaction. If there's more, I'll find it. There was more. A lot more. 3 days later, she called me. It's not 18,000, she said. I didn't react. How much? 79,000. I closed my eyes. Explain. They've been cycling debt, she said. Opening new accounts to pay off old ones. Keeping everything just under the surface so it doesn't trigger alerts. It's not random. It's sustained. She paused. There's something else. I didn't ask. I already knew there would be. Your college fund, she said. I leaned back slowly. What about it? I found the records, she continued. It was drained when you were 19. Withdrawal signature matches your mother's handwriting. My jaw tightened. How much? 45,000? 15 years? They'd been lying for 15 years. Said it went to tuition. Said it was used the right way. It wasn't. It was gone, redirected. To Lauren. I hung up the call and sat there in my condo. Half packed, half empty. And for the first time since all of this started, I understood the full number. $124,000. Taken, not borrowed, not owed, taken. Over 15 years, by the people who raised me. I didn't feel anger. Not the kind people expect. No yelling, no breaking things, just clarity. Cold, precise clarity. Monday morning, I filed the police report. Detective Alvarez took the case. He flipped through the documentation slowly. Page after page. This isn't small, he said. Multiple accounts, long timeline. Coordinated activity. He looked up at me. This is deliberate, I know. If this moves forward, he continued, your mother and sister could face criminal charges. Identity theft, fraud, forgery. I didn't hesitate. I understand. He studied me for a moment. Then nodded. All right. We'll start the investigation. That night, I blocked every number. Mom, Dad, Lauren. Anyone connected to them. Silence. For the first time in years, actual silence. 2 weeks later, Detective Alvarez called. We've completed the preliminary investigation, he said. The evidence is overwhelming. My grip tightened slightly. We're referring it to the prosecutor's office. Recommendation: full charges. Both of them, yes. I nodded. Even though he couldn't see it. What about my father? No direct evidence, he said, but he knew enough to not ask questions. That tracked, that was always his role. I ended the call, sat in the quiet. No reaction, just confirmation. Then, my phone rang. Unknown number? I almost ignored it. But I answered. Ethan. My father's voice. Not his number. Someone else's. I told you not to contact me, I know, he said quickly. But, your sister is in trouble? Your mother too. We need to talk. There's nothing to talk about. Please, he said. I'd never heard him sound like that before. Not firm. Not authoritative. Just desperate. One dinner, he added. Sunday. Let us explain. Let us fix this. Fix, the word didn't mean anything anymore. But something else did. Closure. I looked around my condo. Boxes stacked, life already halfway gone. Sunday, I said. 6, thank you, he breathed. I hung up. Then I called David. They reached out, I said. Dinner, Sunday. Don't go. He replied immediately. I am, I said. But I'm not going to negotiate. A pause. Then, what are you going to do? I looked at the folder on my table. Every document, every signature, every number, I'm going to finish it. By the time Sunday was set, everything was already in motion. There was no hesitation left, no doubt, just process. David moved fast once I gave the green light. Credit freeze went in immediately. Every fraudulent account was flagged and disputed. Jennifer compiled a full forensic report, clean, structured, airtight. 15 years of fraud laid out in black and white, transactions, signatures, timelines. There was no version of this where they could explain it away. Monday morning, I walked into the precinct and made it official. Detective Alvarez already had the file open. You're certain you want to proceed? He asked, not gently, not emotionally. Just fact, yes. He nodded once and started typing. All right. We'll move forward with identity theft, fraud, and forgery. Given the duration and amount, this qualifies as felony-level activity. The word didn't hit me the way it should have. Felony. Prison. This was real. Still, I didn't hesitate. What happens next? I asked. We conduct formal interviews, he said, gather statements, cross-reference financial records, then we submit everything to the prosecutor. He paused, then added, I need to be clear with you, your mother's involvement. It's significant. She's not just complicit. She initiated parts of this. I already knew. Hearing it out loud didn't change anything. They could both face serious consequences, he continued. Probation at minimum, possibly incarceration, depending on how the prosecution goes. I understand. He studied me for a moment. Like he was expecting something else. Regret, hesitation, emotion, there wasn't any. All right, he said. Then, we proceed. I walked out of that station lighter than I'd felt in years. Not because things were better. Because things were finally clear. That night, I blocked the last remaining numbers. Extended family, anyone who might try to reach me on their behalf. No more noise, no more pressure, no more manipulation disguised as concern. Just silence. The investigation moved faster than expected. Turns out, when you hand law enforcement 15 years of organized evidence, there's not much to debate. 10 days later, Alvarez called. We've completed initial interviews, he said. Their stories don't line up with the documentation. No surprise. We're submitting the case to the prosecutor's office with a recommendation for charges. How long? I asked. 2 to 3 weeks, he said. Maybe sooner. I thanked him and hung up, then just sat there. Not thinking about them. Not thinking about the outcome. Just steady. Later that night. My phone lit up again. Unknown number. I already knew who it was. I let it ring once, twice, then answered. Ethan. My dad again. Different number this time. You need to stop calling me. I know, he said quickly. I know. But please just listen. I didn't say anything. Your sister is terrified, he continued. Your mother hasn't slept in days. They're saying this could become criminal. It is criminal. Silence. Then a shaky breath. We can fix this, he said. We'll pay you back, every dollar. Just don't let this go further. That's not how this works. Yes, it is, he insisted. You made the report. You can take it back. No, I said calmly. I can't. And even if I could, I wouldn't. Another silence. He didn't have an answer for that. Come to dinner Sunday, he said finally. Please, let's talk face to face, like a family. Family. The word didn't carry weight anymore. It just sounded outdated. There's nothing to fix, I said. Then, let us explain. Explain. 15 years. $124,000. Forgery, identity theft. There wasn't an explanation, but there was something else. Finality. I exhaled, slowly. Sunday, I said. 6 o'clock. Relief flooded his voice. Thank you. Thank you. Son, I ended the call without responding. Then I called David. They're trying to settle, I said. Of course they are, he replied. That means they know how bad it is. They asked me to come to dinner. Don't go, I am. A pause. Then his tone shifted. Then, you don't go alone, he said. You go prepared. I will. Every document was already organized. Every number verified. Every signature matched. There would be no argument, no confusion, no emotional detours. Just facts. I looked around my condo that night. Boxes stacked against the walls, everything reduced to what I was taking and what I was leaving behind. Seattle was already real. The job, the apartment, the new life. This dinner. It wasn't about fixing anything. It was about ending it. Sunday came in cold and quiet. The kind of gray afternoon that made everything feel heavier than it already was. I got there exactly at 6. Not early. Not late. On time. Like, this was just another obligation I was finishing. The house looked the same. Same driveway. Same front door. Same place I'd walked into 1,000 times growing up. Nothing about it reflected what it really was. My mom opened the door. She looked smaller. Not physically, just diminished. Her eyes were red. Her voice softer than I'd ever heard it. Ethan, thank you for coming. I didn't answer. Just walked past her into the house. My dad was already in the living room. Standing like he didn't know whether to sit or pace. Lauren was on the couch, phone in her hand, of course. But she wasn't scrolling. She was staring at it. Waiting. They knew. Maybe not everything. But enough. Dinner's ready, my mom said quickly, forcing a smile. I made your favorite. We sat down, same table, same seats, same setup as 2 weeks ago. Except this time, no one touched their food. The silence stretched, thick, uncomfortable. My dad cleared his throat. Son, we need to talk about what's been happening. I looked at him, then at my mom, then at Lauren. And I spoke before he could continue. What's been happening? I said evenly. Is that you've been stealing from me for 15 years? My mom's fork slipped from her hand and hit the plate. Lauren went pale instantly. My dad froze. I didn't raise my voice, didn't lean forward, didn't move at all. 79,000 in credit fraud, I continued. 45,000 from my college fund. Identity theft, forgery. I tilted my head slightly. Did I miss anything? Lauren's voice cracked. How do you even, Daniel? I said. Then a forensic accountant, then a lawyer, then the police. I reached into my bag and pulled out the folder. Set it on the table, gently. They know everything. My mom started crying, not the controlled kind, not the kind she used to manipulate. This was different. Panic. Real panic. We were going to fix it, she said through broken breaths. We were going to pay you back, with what I asked. No anger, just a question. Lauren doesn't have a job. Dad's retirement is already stretched. You've been covering this with more debt. No one answered. Because there wasn't an answer, my dad stood up suddenly. You filed a police report, he said, voice rising. Against your own family. I looked at him. Steady. Against criminals who happened to be related to me. The words landed hard. Like something final. We are your family, my mom said. Her voice breaking. We raised you. We loved you. I held her gaze. You used me. Silence. I opened the folder and slid it toward them. Every account, every transaction, every signature you forged, it's all in there. Lauren grabbed it with shaking hands, flipped through pages too fast to actually read, her face drained of color. You're sending us to prison, she whispered. I shook my head once. No. You sent yourselves. My dad stepped closer to the table. Desperate now. Ethan, listen to me. We can fix this. We'll pay you back, every dollar. Just drop this before it goes any further. That's not how it works. Yes, it is. He insisted. You made the report. You can stop it. No, I said. I can't. And even if I could, I wouldn't. That shut him up. Lauren looked up at me. Anger cutting through the fear. You're really doing this, she snapped. Over money. I let out a slow breath. Over $124,000, I said. Over 15 years of lies. I leaned forward slightly. Over the fact that none of you ever saw me as a person. I paused. Then finished it. I was never your son. I was your backup account. No one spoke, no one moved. Lauren's face twisted. That's not fair, I repeated. Now I leaned in, not loud, but sharp. Every time you lost a job, I paid your rent. Every time you had a problem, I covered it. Every time you needed help, I showed up. I tapped the folder, and the entire time, you were stealing from me behind my back. Lauren's mouth opened, closed, nothing came out. You don't get to talk about fair, I said. She tried one last angle. I'm your sister. You're a fraud, I replied, legally and factually. My dad stepped in again, voice cracking. Son, please, let's handle this privately. Family doesn't air things like this. Family doesn't steal from each other, I said. I stood up. That was it. Conversation over. My mom broke down completely now, sobbing. What do you want from us? She cried. I looked at her. Calm. Nothing. That's the point. Lauren's voice came out sharp again. Desperate and angry. So you're just going to destroy us? I picked up my keys. You already did that. I walked toward the door, then stopped, turned back one last time. I'm leaving for Seattle on Friday, I said. New job, new place, new number. Their faces froze. You won't have any of it. My mom shook her head, tears streaming. You can't do this. I met her eyes. I already did. And then I walked out. Behind me, voices broke, crying, shouting. Blame. It all blurred together. Because I didn't turn around, not once. 3 days later, the charges were filed. Detective Alvarez called me personally. The prosecutor's office is moving forward, he said. Multiple counts: identity theft, fraud, forgery. I stood in my empty condo, phone to my ear, looking at walls that no longer belonged to me. When I asked, arraignment is scheduled for next week, he said. Your mother and sister will be formally charged. I nodded, even though he couldn't see it. What's the likely outcome? He paused. First-time offenders, but the amount is significant and the duration is long. If they plead guilty, probation, restitution. If they fight it and lose, another pause. 2 to 5 years, 2 to 5 years. My mother, my sister, prison. I waited for something to hit me. Shock, guilt, anything. Nothing came. Understood, I said. Before hanging up, he added, for what it's worth, you did the right thing. I didn't answer that because it didn't feel like right or wrong. It just felt necessary. Friday morning, the movers arrived. Efficient, quiet, in and out. By noon, everything I owned was either boxed, shipped, or gone. The condo echoed when I walked through it. No furniture, no clutter, no weight, just space. I took one last look around. Not for nostalgia, just confirmation. Then, I locked the door and left the key on the counter. By evening, I was at the airport, boarding pass in hand, one-way ticket, no return planned. The flight was quiet, no music, no distractions, just the hum of the engine and the sense that something had finally ended. When I landed, Marcus was waiting. Same guy, same energy. He pulled me into a hug that lasted longer than I expected. You actually did it, he said. Yeah, I replied. He stepped back, studying my face. Any regrets? I thought about it. Family dinners I wouldn't attend, holidays that would be different, people I'd never speak to again. I shook my head. No. And for the first time since all of this started, I meant it. 6 months later, my life looked nothing like it used to. And that was the point. The job in Seattle better than advertised. High-level security architecture. Real responsibility. Real impact. No chaos, no constant emergencies that weren't mine to fix. Just work. Clean. Structured. Mine. My apartment overlooked the water. Nothing flashy, but quiet. Controlled. No one showing up unannounced. No calls demanding money. No pressure disguised as family concern. Marcus and I had a routine dinner twice a week. Gym on weekends. Normal things. Stable things. For the first time in years, my life wasn't built around someone else's problems. It was built around mine. And most days, there weren't any. The legal case moved forward without me needing to be involved. David handled everything. Updates came through email. Clean, direct, no emotion. Both of them took plea deals. Didn't even try to fight it. My mother, 18 months probation. Ordered to repay $45,000. Lauren, 2 years probation. $29,000 in restitution. No prison time. But felony records, permanent. That part mattered more. Because consequences don't always need bars to be real. Sometimes they just need to follow you. Dad sent one message. Through David's office, not even directly to me. I don't understand how you could do this to your mother. I read it once, then closed it. Because there was nothing to explain. I didn't do anything to her. She'd done it first, For 15 years, they still saw me the same way. The problem. The one who went too far. The one who broke the family. But that wasn't true. The family was already broken. I just stopped pretending it wasn't. And once you see something clearly, you don't unsee it. You don't go back, not to guilt, not to obligation, not to being someone else's solution. I built something else instead, a life where I wasn't needed, I was chosen. And that made all the difference. A year after I moved, I got a letter, forwarded through David's office. No return address I could trace, but I knew who it was from the second I saw the handwriting. Lauren. I almost threw it away. Didn't open it. Didn't read it. Just end it there. But I didn't. I sat down, opened it, and read, Ethan, I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't expect you to respond. I just needed to say this somewhere you might actually hear it. You were right. About everything. I stopped for a second, then kept going. I was entitled. I was selfish. I treated you like you were there to fix my life instead of living your own. I didn't see it then. Or maybe I did and didn't care enough to stop. Mom made it easy. She always stepped in, always had an excuse for me. I got used to it. And you were just there. I exhaled slowly and kept reading. The charges changed everything. Not just legally. Everything. I can't get hired for anything decent. The fraud conviction follows me everywhere. Background checks shut doors before I even get to explain. I'm working retail now. Minimum wage, small apartment I can barely afford. I asked Mom and Dad for help. You know what they said? We can't keep bailing you out. I let out a quiet breath. Of course. Funny, right now? They understand boundaries. Now they understand that constantly rescuing someone doesn't actually help them. There was a long pause in the letter before the last part. The handwriting changed slightly. Less rushed. More deliberate. I'm in therapy now. Started because the court made me. But I kept going. I'm trying to understand why I thought I was entitled to your money, your credit, your life. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I needed to say, I'm sorry. For everything. I hope Seattle is everything you wanted, Lauren. I read it twice. Then a third time. Waiting for something to land. Relief, satisfaction, closure. It didn't come. What I felt instead was distance. Like reading about someone I used to know. Someone who had been part of my life once but wasn't anymore. I folded the letter. Put it away. Didn't respond. Maybe one day I would. Maybe one day enough time would pass that a conversation made sense. But not now. Not like this. Because understanding what you did doesn't undo it. I never responded to the letter. Not because I didn't read it. Not because I didn't understand it. But because some things don't need an answer right away. A year ago, I would have felt obligated to reply, to fix, to reopen something just because someone else finally realized what they'd done. Not anymore. These days, my life is quiet. Not empty. Just quiet in a way that feels earned. Work is solid. People respect my time. My boundaries don't get tested, they get accepted. Marcus is still around. A few others too. Not a huge circle. But a real one. No one in my life expects me to solve them. No one treats me like a resource. And for the first time, that feels normal. Sometimes I think about reaching out, not to go back. Just to acknowledge it. Maybe one day. I will, but that day isn't today. Because forgiveness isn't a deadline. And closure isn't something you owe anyone else. It's something you build for yourself. What I have now, peace, stability, control, it's worth more than any apology, more than any attempt to undo the past, more than any version of revenge. I didn't win because they lost. I didn't win because of the charges, or the restitution, or the consequences they have to live with. I won because I left. Because I chose something different and I didn't look back. If you've ever been the one everyone depended on, maybe it's time to ask who's been showing up for you. This story is created by Fish Tells Stories for entertainment purposes only. Do not imitate or apply in real life.